The Senate President Bukola Saraki has just communicated to the legislators an executive communication from President Muhammadu Buhari on the latest in the investigations into the crisis. And following a point of order by Senator Joshua Lidani, the Senate has resolved to invite the Inspector General of Police to appear before the various relevant committees tomorrow to give an update on why, after the 2-week stipulation by the Senate to fast-track the investigation and arrest the perpetrators of the New Year crisis and the killings, nothing so far has been done. They are expecting the Inspector General of Police to appear before the committees tomorrow to give them an update on that. Senate is continuing the session right now, so let us continue their proceedings by joining them right now.
Thank you, Mr. President, well guided. But sir, I want you to understand my emotions. Mr. President, this thing is happening. People are being killed on daily basis. People are being kidnapped on daily basis. Mr. President, this girl I'm talking about now that was kidnapped, her parents are poor. Just 1 week to her marriage, she's still in the hands of these people in the bush. Their parent doesn't know where she is. Mr. President, we need to lend our voices to the plight of the Zamfara people. And I'm speaking this and I'm saying it, that we need to look at the Zamfara issue before it gets out of hand. If people are allowed to defend themselves, Mr. President, that is an invitation to anarchy. And I want the Senate to note it. And I want, with your permission, to lay this as an evidence before this chamber, because party has got nothing to do with issues said on the floor of the Senate. I so submit, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Marafa. Yes, you can lay your documents of the invitation. You came under personal explanation. It's unfortunate that you did not. Let me, Senator Ajuda, that you have come on emotion, but with this matter has been discussed previously. I feel the danger of what is going on in Zamfara, and it's a serious issue. We totally agree, because your security, your personal security, and your family is very issue. What we have been discussing here has largely to do with the security of the state, and your concern is the concern of all of us. I know that is one of the reasons why we have chatted that we must come together under a summit and discuss extensively all the issues that concern not only Zamfara. There is clearly a breakdown of law and order and security, and that is clear. And I think we need to be bold enough to take these issues when we have this summit, where governors will be present, the security agency will be present, and we must confront ourselves on those issues to find solutions. And what I can assure you, and I assure you, is that when we do have this summit, we'll take time to take Zamfara as a special case and extract from the governor and the security agencies what is the way forward. And I assure you of the security of yourself, that will ensure that nothing will happen to you in your process of defending your constituency. I truly sympathize and your predicament, and I assure you that we'll do our best to restore sanity into Zamfara state. Thank you. Leader of Senate.
Sir, no, sir. I think.
Point of order. Point of order.
Sir, there is an ad hoc committee of this Senate on security that visited Zamfara. Mr. President, I want, with your permission, let us receive the Gaya committee that visited Zamfara, and they attested to the fact that one of these people that was received in Gusau has a follower of 1,500.
Senator Marafa, I have listened to you, so please let me, please. Yes, Senator Aliusabi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, Dr. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to come under Order 43.
Yes, Senator Aliu Sabi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to come under Order 43. And by the leave of Mr. President, I may proceed to read.
Yeah, go ahead.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor any debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the issue I'm bringing before this distinguished Senate is in line with what we have always been discussing: security. On 23rd of January, I got a report that armed bandits have invaded some villages located on the fringes of the Kanji Lake National Park, the Borgu sector of the Kanji Lake National Park, and ransacked the whole village looking for food. And the people do not know who they are or where they are coming from, but they are heavily armed. As a result of this, the vigilante group were invited, and in the process, they were ambushed by these heavily armed men, and 3 of the vigilante members were...
Senator Marafa, please sit down so that everybody was listening when you are talking. Let's listen to Senator Aliu Sabi.
Like I said, it has to do with armed banditry, and the unfortunate episode happened around 23rd of January in some villages that are located on the fringes of the Kanji Lake National Park, the Borgu sector. Mr. President, what is disturbing is that this is a remote area which links up to the border between Nigeria and the Benin Republic. And it is also a border town between Niger State and Kwara State. This area has poor communication network, and because of the large expanse of land, the Borgu sector of the Kanji Lake National Park, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, is about 3,970 square kilometers. So these bandits are there right now as we speak. Nobody knows where they are coming from. For the past 5 days, there has been a combined team of security from Kwara State and from Niger State combing that area to understand what is happening. Now, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the issue of security we have already discussed. I'm flagging this up so that the committee that we have and the summit that we're going to have should begin to look at the plight of our communities that are located on the fringes of both the national parks or large forest and then the border communities, because it seems as if the bandits are now having free reign around that area. So, Mr. President, I thought I should bring this to our attention so that in the light of the larger solution we are looking at, there is need for us to begin to look at solutions. Is it not time for us to begin to have border security? I think these are issues that we should look at in providing.
All right, thank you so much, Senator Aliu Sabi. I think the Senate Ad hoc Committee on Security will take note of these comments and look into it. Yes, point of order, Senator Issa Misau.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, Senator Comrade Issa Misau, representing the good people of Bauchi Central, Mr. President.
I want to listen to Mr.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise under Order 42 and 52, Mr. President. The matter for discussion shall, it be possible, be referred to President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is certified that the matter is urgent and definite and urgent. Mr. President, let me go to Order 52. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any proceedings for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I don't want to talk about the issues concerning politics in Kano, but I want to talk about issues of security concerning what is happening, especially from day before yesterday in Kano. Mr. President, Kano is very, very important for us, we that come from the northern part of this Nigeria, especially me that share most of my constituency, 70% they share same boundary with Kano. And if you look at the social media, Mr. President, right from day before yesterday, you will see the issue of Togri, what we call endeavor in those days of Kano. And it is going to be a very, very serious concern if we don't do anything concerning the coming back of endeavor. So many times we stand here, we talk about security issues, but we don't look at the root where it started. The issue of Boko Haram in Maiduguri started with Ekomok, when Ali Modu Sharif was the governor of Borno State, when he armed so many people with arms. And from there, those...
Senator Mesao, you came under 42, so you need to tell me what... Are you coming under personal explanation, or you want us to debate? All right, fine. Distinguished colleagues, in line with our standing rules, Senator Isams has come on the issue of security as regards recent, as he says, his own observations in Kano State. I need to seek the leave of members of the Senate for us to consider. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, this issue started right from the time when one of our colleagues, Senator Engineer Musa Konkoso, was about to visit Kano. He gave a date that he's going to visit Kano to meet with his people, to visit his constituency. But instead of him allowed, for him to be allowed and given this necessary security, the police wrote a letter to him advising him not to go. I don't want to go deep into the reason why he was not allowed to go, but Mr. President, as we are sitting here, if somebody, a senator representing his, a particular constituency, will not be allowed to visit his constituency, I think we are not doing good for ourselves. One day it will become another person. Today is Rabiu, Senator Kwankwaso. And the issue, if you go through the social media yesterday to today, in the presence of State Assembly, in the presence of the state government, in the presence of even part of people from the National Assembly, if you see the kind of weapons that was used, people were parading more in thousands with weapons. And the only route to my constituency is through Kano. And Mr. President, if we don't talk about this issue, this is the beginning, because it took very hard, so many times for this issue of endeavor in Kano to be calmed. But today we are bringing back the issue of this insecurity in Kano. And we are watching. And Mr. President, I see no reason why a person who wants to travel to his own hometown as a sitting senator will be prevented just by security. If they are going to prevent him from traveling to his state, then they should give him another date whereby they will give him that security. And we are sure, yes, and we are sure, yes, Mr. President, then the issue of arms, if you look at, I have some pictures. For the first time in the history of this nation, women were giving arms to carry. These are the pictures. Women were giving arms to carry in broad daylight. And in Kano, yesterday, and day before yesterday. And if we don't do anything, these are the pictures, Mr. President, for the first time in the history of our district. And if we don't do anything, and if something starts to happen in Kano, we come here and start making maybe 1 minute prayer for this thing. How can we? Mr. President, this is what happened yesterday and day before yesterday in Kano. How do we give our young people arms to carry? Instead of us to give them work, instead of them to empower them to do the right thing. And Mr. President, since the time these issues of crisis only before anything, there has never been a time whereby any prominent person or any person, where a politician's son or somebody that is doing well falls victim of this thing. It is always the innocent people, it is always the politician. They will give drugs to people, they will give them arms. I think, Mr. President, we need to investigate what is happening.
So Senator Issa, what is the prayer? Your mic, yeah?
The prayer first is to condemn what happened in Kano. Then secondly is to investigate what happened so that at least issues of this kind of issues that in Taraba, Benue and other things will not start in Kano. If we don't do that, if we allow people to be giving arms openly to the youth instead of giving them job, I think we are not doing good for our younger generation.
All right, thank you. Senator Kabiru Gaya.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I am Kabiru Ibrahim Gaya from Kano, representing the people of Kano South. Mr. President, let me clearly say it. We have been a peace-loving people in Kano State. For the last few years, there has never been crisis in Kano in terms of peace, apart from the issue of Boko Haram, when there were bomb blasts in Kano that killed over 500 people and burned off our markets. Kano politics has always been different. Since during the MPN and PRP, and to NRC when I was a governor to SDP, and to PDP and MPP. Mr. President, Kano has always been a volatile state in terms of, or not terms of killing people, but terms of the politics always tough. But let me explain clearly that since there has never been that crisis, the rally we had for the last 3 days, or last 1 week, there was never incidents of fight. There was never incidents. Even the one we had yesterday, whereby the crowd would march in my Central area, nobody was killed or even hurt. So please let's understand, even the issue of the two governors, the Konkoso and Ganduji, they were very good friends. They were governor and deputy governor for years. And the party and the government is working together to see how we can reconcile the issue. So therefore, this matter is like a family matter, and we are working to resolve it. So it's not a matter that we can bring it up here. But since, and in anywhere, Mr. President, wherever we want to have peace, we will have peace. So let's work together for peace.
Senator Barao Jibril.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barao Jibril. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I'm deeply worried. I'm worried. I'm worried in the sense that I know the effort you've put to unite us here as a family under your leadership and be working as brothers. But a trend is now emerging that will create problem amongst ourselves. There's a big trend, and I'm sure, I know you as a good leader, you will find a way to stop this trend. What Senator Isahamba Biso has started now will not go well for this Senate, where there's a family quarrel at home. You can see now, this is a problem. This is a problem. This is an issue that has to do with Kano State. An issue that has to do with APC in Kano State, but the PDP are supporting one side against the other side. The PDP, you can see. You can see. This is an ugly trend. The PDP, Mr. President. The PDP, Mr. President. I've never gone to, there's no time, we know there have been problems in all the states of the country. This is a family, a squabble, a backyard squabble that is happening in Kano. But yet, someone like Isahamba Biso is bringing that to the floor to create problem. Protect me, Mr. President. Mr. President, please protect me. I need your protection.
Go ahead, Senator Peoja. Carry on.
Mr. President, we are all politicians. And that is why sometimes what is, is being referred to, sometimes you hear people saying dirty water of politics. There are bound to be disagreements. There are bound to be squabbles. Bringing squabbles, minor squabbles, occurring in states to the highest assembly in this country, the Senate, to discuss backyard squabble in states, I think is a dangerous trend to this august Senate, Mr. President. We have our little problem in Kano, and Isahamba Biso has never cared to ask me, as a senator from Kano, what is happening in your state. And he's bringing a matter that is happening within the family in Kano to the floor of this august Senate. Mr. President, you need to stop this trend. Because by tomorrow, I may get her to bring the squabble happening between Marafa and his governor to the floor of the Senate. Or the problem happening between Isahamba himself and his governor to the floor of the Senate. Their problem, have we cared to bring to the floor of the Senate? They've been fighting themselves in Bauchi. Mr. President, this is an ugly trend. I want to say this. Don't you have a problem with your governor? You are
Senator Isa, it's just rounding up, then I'll take your point of order.
We have our internal party squabble in Kano. What we did yesterday and the day yesterday was to go out for campaign in respect of our local government election. And he's stating facts that he doesn't know about. He's giving false facts, false story to the Senate. In our own kind of politics, we have segments. We have women segment, we have our traditional hunters. And they are very good components of our political structure. Whenever we're having campaign, they do come. He knows that himself. But he's now being used by some other people to blackmail us. It's blackmail, Mr. President. By stating what is not true, giving facts, giving story that is not true to this august Senate, Mr. President. We never fought anybody. Nobody fought. Nobody killed anyone. There was no quarrel even yesterday. Yet, he's bringing stories that undermine our own political structure in Kano. This is not fair. When you come to the floor of the Senate to undermine the structure, the political structure, the political organization of a fellow senator, I think it's unfair. You need to call Isahamba to order. This is not fair. And when you do this, tomorrow I'm going to bring a motion in respect to what is happening in your states. I will do that, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Senator. Do sit down. All right. Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, I have noticed you are now contributing to this discussion. Do you have anything to contribute?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, representing Kano Central. Mr. President, I believe as a leader, I don't want to say anything at this particular point. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, thank you, Senator Rabiu Kanko. So I think your statement will go to show that this is still a family matter. That with due respect, that this is still a matter that can be addressed at the state level, because by his own observation as a leader, he shows that there are issues, but definitely there is still a room for some kind of solution. Distinguished colleagues, there is no doubt about it. As I said in my opening remarks at the beginning of this session, there is going to be a trend where politics will begin to creep in our efforts and our responsibility. We need to do our best to ensure that we do as much as possible to see how we can manage these kind of issues. Governor Senator from Zamfara spoke on these issues, and I'm sure that many states today who are having security challenges. Kano just now, and I'm sure if we continue, many states. Distinguished colleagues, I think we have to agree at what point does it become a matter to come to this floor. And I think that we need to be able to have a barometer of being able to separate those issues. And I think it's only unless we do that. So I want to appeal to my colleagues, as much as you have the right and the authority and the privilege to come on under these different personal explanations, privileges, I will ask you to please at times let us rise above some of these issues. Let us have mechanisms by which we can resolve some of these issues before it gets to this stage. I think it might be necessary, leader, that we do set up a committee to begin to look at some of these state issues and see what we can do in bringing some kind of, it might not achieve much, but we must give it the chance, opportunity as statesmen of this great country. On that point, I will take, Issa, you've already got prayers before us, which we'll take those prayers, and then after that, we'll move forward. So we'll now go to the prayers which you've brought forward. Prayer 1. Yes, observation, Senator Aliru.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you have already made a statement that the matter should be referred back to the state for resolution. And I think if we start taking the prayers, condemning this, condemning that, we are more or less agreed.
Definitely, Senator Aliru. Yeah, Senator Aliru, I thank you because, distinguished colleagues, in the spirit of my concluding comments, I think that it is best, we have heard the observations made by Senator Issa Misau, but if in line with what I've given my own guidance, let us stand down this prayer. Let's give an opportunity for which there can be peace. We are still going to be here for another year and a bit. If it degenerates, then we'll take necessary action that is required. On that point, let's move forward. Thank you, my colleagues. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, very distinguished and respected colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Babaka Bashir Garbai on the Federal Polytechnic Maiduguri Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Polytechnic Maiduguri Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 607, first reading.
Federal Polytechnic Maiduguri Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 607, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Ali Ndume on the Federal College of Education, Goza Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Education, Goza Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 608, first reading.
Federal College of Education, Goza Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 608, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Dino Melai on the National Income Salaries and Wages Commission Act, Amendment Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Income Salaries and Wages Commission Act, Amendment Bill 2018, SB 597, first reading.
National Income Salaries and Wages Commission Act, Amendment Bill 2018, SB 597, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Abubakar Kyari on the Federal College of Education, Monguno, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Education, Monguno, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 609, first reading.
Federal College of Education, Monguno, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 609, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate, just before I call you, I've noticed that Chairman Police is here. I know I've just ruled on the issue that we will not take the prayers concerning the motion raised by Issa Misao. But I think at the same time, distinguished Senator, Chairman Police, I don't think at the same time it is right for a senator not to be able to visit his constituency. So Chairman Police, I would like you to summon the IG, and they must provide security at a time adequate, because that is a responsibility to enable that Senator Kwankwaso is able to visit his constituency. Thank you, thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Senator Dino.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the second reading of the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Auditors in Nigeria, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, standing in my name and Senator Andy Uba.
Thank you.
The single senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 21st of December 2017. Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Yes, Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly and distinguished and respected colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this very important bill, which seeks to establish the Institute of Forensic and Investigative Auditors to develop and train professional forensic and investigative auditors in Nigeria, internal and external auditors, through a system of professional examination and certification that will make them be qualified and more skilled in the use of science and technology for fraud prevention, detection, and investigation. The bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, the 21st of December 2017. Among its basic functions and objectives, this bill seeks to create a platform which will produce qualified, dedicated, skilled, and professionally trained individuals in the use of forensic science and technology tools and the techniques of forensic and investigative audit in public and private sectors, using international best practices and skills in the discharge of their function. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, going by its objectives, therefore, this bill will promote high professional standards, ethics, and etiquettes amongst its members in a bid to wipe out cases of compromised auditing process and reporting and camouflaging of accounting facts, figures, and fraud prevention, which is currently one of the bans of many practitioners in Nigeria. Interestingly, this bill, when passed, will make provision for the training of professionals from other disciplines like lawyers, criminologists, and security experts, judicial officers, court registrars, among others that are desirous to become skilled in this unique practice of financial fraud prevention, detection, and investigation. This is because forensic and investigative audit involves litigation support, court testimony, and expert witness. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this institute has been actively involved in training of professionals from different fields and has trained about 11,600 professionals within and without, and we have a total number of 9,600 qualified members from different fields like internal auditors, external auditors, lawyers, criminologists, security experts, and judicial staff since its establishment in Nigeria. Prominent Nigerians like Accountant General of the Federation, Auditor General for the Federation, etc., are part of the present membership. The Institute has about 3,600 students across the country presently. These students are expected to undergo qualifying examinations from stage 1 through to stage 3. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the Institute, which this bill seeks to establish, is already in existence in many anti-fraud leading countries such as Canada, America, Australia, India, among others, thereby making it to have partners and associates to work with closely in areas of training, information sharing, and exchange of ideas. This institute is a branch of Association of Forensic and Investigative Auditors of Canada, affiliated to Association of Forensic and Investigative Auditors of Asia Pacific, and is also in affiliation with the Institute of Forensic Accountant and Investigative Audit of India and affiliated to Institute of Forensic Auditors, USA. Nigeria needs to move at par with other countries of the world by adopting and transiting to forensic and investigative audit that have all it takes to train professionals to enable them prevent fraud from taking place by putting in place some mechanisms for fraud prevention. The benefits of the bill when passed into law. One major advantage that this body will bring to our anti-corruption fight and crusade is that it will not only partner with relevant government agencies, but it will also help to train their agents and certify them on the use of science and technology of forensic and investigative audit skills in preventing frauds in their various organizations. 2, it will help to strengthen the nation's institutional frameworks, thereby bringing us at par with other developed countries in line with global standards and competitiveness. 3, it will stimulate public confidence and enhance transparency and accountability in our economic system and our national lives. 4, it will also answer the question often posed by foreign investors as to the safety and guarantee of their direct foreign investment in our country. 5, the bill also seeks to leverage on the skills already acquired by thousands trained forensic experts in Nigeria and Africa at large to offer training and retraining of personnel in order to broaden and ensure active participation from various relevant organs of government. 6, it will also popularize the art and use of science and technology of forensic fraud prevention by professionals, just like it is practiced in many developed countries. 7, it will create employment opportunities, especially for our teeming young graduates and youths who are roaming the streets today. It will also help to generate as well as conserve foreign exchange through its training programs for Nigerians and foreigners, especially nationals of neighboring African countries who will want to be trained as professional forensic auditors and investigators. 8, members will be actively involved in assisting government in promoting transparency and accountability by putting in place some sophisticated mechanisms to prevent fraud, and where there is a white-collar crime, they investigate with use of advanced audit technology. And 9, besides having a home-based forensic and investigative auditors, will save Nigerian government the cost of inviting forensic auditors for fraud investigation, as it were in the case of NNPC missing $20 billion in the year 2014. Mr. President and very distinguished colleagues, this bill, if passed into law, will help Nigeria to have skilled professionals to deepen the fraud prevention and detection. In line with our order, Standing Order 77.3, this bill has no consequential financial implication on government as no public funds are involved. The Institute will rely solely on member subscription and revenue from ancillary services for its operation. Mr. President, I thank you very, very much and my distinguished colleagues for this opportunity to present this bill. I urge and strongly advocate that this distinguished Senate do support this bill for second reading. Thank you very much, sir.
Senator Nala.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I stand to second the second reading of this very, very important bill, in the sense that relying on the benefits derivable from the passage of this bill, we have every reason as a Senate to support its second reading. Even though inadvertently the leader in the lead debate failed or neglected to distinguish between fraud and falsification of account, but students of actuarial science will tell you that these functions as being canvassed in this bill are normally domiciled with mostly foreign companies who are paid in very, very high amount of money, depending on what they are being called upon to audit. So if that money is trapped in the country, what it means is that it can be positively geared towards doing other positive things rather than taking away what ordinarily we have the intellect and the capability to do in Nigeria. So I really, in support of the second reading of this bill, and I urge my colleague that this is so straightforward that the benefits are too clear that we do not need to delve so much and waste so much time into this, and that whatever contribution anybody wishes to make to enhance the richness of the bill can be taken at the public hearing if my colleagues so desire. I'm therefore urging my colleagues to accept the ruling of the leader that the bill be read the second time so that it can be put to question.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, this is pretty straightforward. I know that we're just taking one similar that had to do with accountants, and this is to do with auditors. So those in favor that this bill now be read the second time, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Auditors in Nigeria and to provide for the registration and regulation of membership and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Auditors in Nigeria and to provide for the registration and regulation of membership and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading taken. This bill is referred to the Committee on Establishment and Public Matters, report back in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
The second order of the day, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is second reading of the Residency Right Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 8th of November 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Dino Melai to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Dino Melai.
Mr. President, my very, very distinguished colleagues, Dino Melai, Kogi West. Mr. President, I stand this day to lead a debate on Citizens Residence Bill, Right Bill, SB 356, 2018. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, permit me to lead a debate on this very important bill, which seeks to provide for residency rights for every citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who has lived or resided consecutively and paid taxes to the relevant local government of the area where such a person has lived or resided for a period of not less than 5 years, consecutive years. Any child of such person who is less than 18 years old of age who has lived with such citizens for the same period of time. Mr. President, my colleagues, the bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 8th of November, 2016. Nigeria is a multi-ethnic and multi-religious country. Over time, millions of Nigerians have migrated to other parts of the country for work, education, or other reasons. Mr. President, as a result, Many Nigerian communities and cities have diverse populations. Often, these are divided into the son of the soil or indigenes of such communities, and residents originating from other parts of the country who are considered as settlers, even after continuous residence for over 2 generations or even more. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, despite the length of residency in an area, being an indigene or a settler often has implications for one's access to land, chieftaincy offices, jobs, scholarships, and political office. These political and economic resources are often considered to be the rightful preserve of the indigenes. Settlers' access to these resources can frequently be challenged or outrightly denied. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, the division between indigenes and settlers therefore poses difficult challenges for a common Nigerian citizenship. In some cases, the settler population might even feel that its religious and cultural rights are under threat. The way the Nigerian state has handled the interaction between indigenes and settlers is part of the problem. Section 25(1) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria promises a single Nigerian citizenship, while Section 42 expressly forbids discrimination against any other Nigerian based on circumstances of their birth. However, when it comes to defining membership of one of Nigeria's 36 states, Section 3181 of the Constitution as amended promotes the special interests of those born on the soil. The specific promotion of nativist rights started with the 1979 Constitution. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the principle of indigenship is about ownership of the community, local government or state. But this ownership is not in the narrow judicial sense of owning a piece of private property, but refers instead to the right to recognition as the preeminent ethnic group within the unit. It is about the right to determine the rules of engagement in inter-ethnic reactions or relations within the unit in question, and the right to dictate the pecking order for enjoying political and economic resources associated with the Nigerian state. Mr. President, indigenship therefore effectively introduces a 2-tier citizenship in Nigerian 36 states and 774 local government areas. Some can lay claim to ancestral connections to the soil and consequently enjoy indigenship rights, while others have no such ancestral claims and must therefore suffer different degrees of political and social exclusion. Many are thereby denied access to both material resources and symbolic recognition in the communities where they may have lived for generations and to which they pay their tax. Mr. President, this is even so in our educational curriculum. The social studies, that is the basic rudimentary disposition for our social studies, teaches us about Jaja of Okwobo, Awolowo of Western Nigeria, Azikiwe of Eastern Nigeria, and Sardauna of Northern Nigeria. So these already create ethnic consciousness in us as a people. And if we must unite as a people, we must begin to see ourselves as brothers, as sisters, more as Nigerians than where we originally come from. For instance, 1st October 2011, the Abia state government dismissed 80 women from neighboring Ebonyi State on the grounds of their non-indigenous status. Many of these women are not only Igbos, but the majority of them are married to men from Abia State. They fell victim to the indigeneity rules because administrative regulations of the Federal Character Commission regard women as belonging to their paternal local government and not that of their husbands. Mr. President, there is therefore a gender dimension in the impact of indigeneity principle, since it disadvantages millions of women who marry outside their original home areas. They are officially regarded as members of the community they no longer live in. Mr. President, this bill is an attempt to address these anomalies by expanding the citizenship to include residency principle. Real change can only come when majority of indigents see the positive point of incorporating long-term residents into their communities. Incorporating long-term residents into membership of communities. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, this bill seeks to address the challenge of indigeneity currently going across the country. Instead of having state of origin, what we should have is state of residence. Mr. President, we are too ethnic conscious to the extent that the hospital card you obtain from the hospital, there's a column for religion, there's a column for tribe, there's a column for state, there's a column for local government, as if this will in any way facilitate your medical recovery. Emeka should be able to contest election in Kano if he has resided in Kano for a periodic time and is a taxpayer in Kano. Sheikh Husani should be able to contest election in Ogbomoso if he has lived in Ogbomoso for a stipulated number of years and is a taxpayer in that community. So the essence of this bill, Mr. President, is to say that the very essence of the bill is to make sure that we have one united Nigeria. Instead of having a state of origin, we should have state of residence, as is being practiced across the globe. It is the practice in the United States, it is the practice in the United Kingdom and other civilized parts of the world. The bill needs the support of every distinguished members of this chamber, as it will go a long way to put to rest the indigenship and settlers or resident question, as well as facilitate unity and integration. It will fight tribalism, ethnicism, and sectionalism. We will have one Nigeria where we will be judged by meritorious advantages more than peculiar interests. I call on my colleagues this afternoon to please support, in the spirit of one Nigeria, in the spirit of togetherness, support this very important bill. I thank you for your attention. And I say God bless you.
Thank you, Senator Dinamila. Senator James Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, James Ebio, War Manager, CON Delta South. Mr. President, I rise to support this Nigerian bill. Not second, it's not a motion.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I rise to support this particular bill from the very bottom of my heart, because this is a bill of national unity, a bill of national cohesion, a bill that will take Nigeria from the level it is to the next level. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Nigeria as a country has had a checkered history. The colonial masters brought us together. And from the very first time they brought us together in 1914, even the colonial masters did quite a lot of things to bring Nigeria as one political, indivisible political entity. And from 1960, when we had our independence, before we had problems in 1966 to 1970, Nigeria, the government at the time, the civilian government at the time, tried everything they could to bring Nigeria together. And even the Civil War of 1966 to 1970, it was fought very bitterly to bring Nigeria together. And from that time till today, successive governments have continued to bring Nigeria together. I wouldn't know today if we are better together than what we were in those days. And this Senate, as a Senate of unity, looking across everybody here in this hall, this is Nigeria together. But we have this ethnic
consciousness. Agreed, we are representing different places. But we are Nigerian senators in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And therefore, all efforts must be made at this level to cohesively bring Nigerians together. I'm sure this bill is in that direction. And therefore, I want to thank the sponsor of this bill for this step that the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is taking on this day. Mr. President, because of our consciousness of where we come from, and because we sometimes overemphasize it, it is important at the end of the day for this bill to be taken to the people proper, because enforceability is key. The people themselves must buy into it. If they don't buy into it, this bill will not be enforceable. Because, Mr. President, as we speak here, Nigerians, if you ask them wherever they are, except outside the country, who are you? After the name, the first thing will be, I am an Ibibio man. If they ask you, where are you from? The first thing the person will say, I'm from Kwara State and a particular tribe. And therefore, whatever we do to bring Nigeria together, we take Nigeria to the next level. But enforceability is key. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, I buy into this bill with all that in me, because it's a bill of national unity, a bill that will take Nigeria from where we are to the next level. Some of the problems, insecurity problems that we have here and there, this bill, by the grace of God, will cure all that. But whatever we do, we must take it to the people. And when we are doing public hearing on this bill, the people themselves must be invited. Traditional rulers must be invited. The owners of land must be invited. Because this emphasis of where do you come from, it is the problem, is the bane of Nigeria today. Mr. President, I support this bill, and I want to urge all my colleagues to also buy into this bill. And by the grace of God, this bill will take us to the next level. Thank you, Mr.
Senator Shehu Sani.
Mr. President, thank you very much for this opportunity. Mr. President, this bill, if I'm not mistaken, is set to lay a foundation that will strengthen our unity, our peace and solidarity as a people. It is of concern that Nigeria is more divided now than it has ever been. If you go through the public opinion and opinions that are posted on social media and traditional media, you will see the divide between the North and the South, the divide between Muslims and Christians, and the divide that is in line with our ethnic identity and ethnic affiliation. It is of concern that over 100 years after our amalgamation as a nation, we still identify with the geographical locations we come from, that the nation we all aspire to build. We must not deceive ourselves. The unity of Nigeria is more in the national anthem, more in the national pledge, more in the coat of arms, than it is in our hearts and in our minds. People identify themselves as tribes and as religionists. And we should tell ourselves the truth, that until and unless we take urgent and necessary steps that will strengthen our unity, we must be ready for an implosion nobody can contain in the future. Mr. President, it is tribalism, it is religious bigotry that leads to issues like nepotism and favoritism. Until and unless leaders demonstrate in their words and in their deeds that they are truly Nigerians, and if they don't, we don't expect people in the grassroots to take themselves and identify themselves as Nigerians. We are all here as senators representing the whole parts of the country. But it is also true that in some of our utterances and positions, we emphasize on the religion and the ethnic group or tribal group we come from. And we should understand that in Africa today, some of the worst conflicts that will be faced are rooted deeply in this paramount importance to the ethnic and religious groups we come from. Nigeria has been working towards strengthening its unity, but it shows clearly that of recent, we are simply deceiving ourselves to say we are united as a country. The most important thing is that bill like this should be given an emphasis so that Hausa people that are in Asaba will feel very comfortable. Igbo people that are in Kano and Kaduna will also take that place to be part of their home. Eviction notices being given to people from different ethnic groups clearly points to the danger of the Nigerian state. And again, Mr. President, if we should see ourselves as one and a united country, then our leaders should demonstrate that by equity and justice in the affairs of the state. Thank you very much.
Senator Olujimi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Biodun Olujimi, Ekiti South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let me thank Senator Dino Melai for bringing this bill at a time when Nigeria needs it the most. As earlier said by Senator Shehu Sani, Nigeria is more divided now than ever before. And this is the time we need a bill that will bring all of us together and ensure that we think as a people. Mr. President, there is a gender leaning to this bill, and that is to say that women suffer the most when it comes to indigeneity and all the ills attached to it. Most of the times when you want to contest or do anything, they ask you to go to your place of birth. Maybe you have been married outside your place of birth. And it happens mostly in politics when you want to contest. I assure you, Mr. President, most of the female members of this hallowed chamber contested from their places of birth. And that should not be, because we're married elsewhere. Other than being married elsewhere, we have lived elsewhere all our lives. And for patriotism to take root in Nigeria and cure the major ills of this nation, we need to think as a people. In my local government, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have Igbos who speak Ekiti and my own dialect in Omu better than I do. But we find it difficult allowing them contest where they have been and they muster enormous support. This bill will cure all these acts. And I believe, Mr. President, going forward, there should be a consequence for anyone who goes against the contents of the bill. There has to be consequences, and that will bring about the unity we desire. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Mao Huabunwa.
Mr. President, distinguished Senator, Senator Mao Huabunwa, I want to lend my voice to earlier speakers to commend my brother, Dino, for bringing this all-important bill. And I want to stand on this floor to rechristen this bill to be restoration bill, because this is the bill actually we've been waiting for the unity of this country. We have long time paid lip service to unity. And like the earlier speakers, if we needed peace anytime, we need it more now than ever before, because you could see that we're almost at the point of disintegration. Even looking at the motions raised this morning, point of order, they're all
in relation to security, peace, unity of this country. We are disintegrating, violence, crisis, disharmony, disunity all over. And this bill coming at this time, Mr. President, I think it behoves on all of us to stand up here and support this bill, because it's unfortunate that you reside in a place for years, you have all your children in that community, you pay your taxes, you support the community, but at the time of either asking for one support or the other, especially during the election, they will ask you to go back to your place of origin. I don't think that will bring unity in this country. I think I stand to support this bill. The only thing as amendment to this bill is that I would want to say that should not be less than 10 years and not 5 years. Maybe during the public hearing they will take care of that, and we will all be part of this public hearing. I want to support this bill in its entirety. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, let me put this question. Those in favor that this bill be read the second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to provide for residency rights for every citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who have lived or resided consecutively and paid taxes to the relevant local government of the area where such a person have lived or resided for a long period of not less than 5 years consecutively, and for any child of such person who is less than 18 years of age and have lived with the person for the same period of time, and for other connected matters, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for residency rights for every citizen of Federal Republic of Nigeria who have lived or resided consecutively and paid taxes to the relevant local government of the area where such a person have lived or resided for a long period of not less than 5 years consecutively, and for any child of such person who is less than 18 years of age and have lived with the person for the same period of time, and for other connected matters. 2018, second reading taken. This bill is referred to the Committee Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters and report back to folks. Let me thank Senator Dino who contributed for this very important bill, which you've christened Nigerian bill, bill of national unity, bill to bring togetherness. A very important bill, and I hope that the committee, when they do the public hearing, will ensure greater participation of all key stakeholders, with the hope that we can have a common position on this, and I think to go a long way in bringing unity to this country and continue to make the country stronger. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is second reading of the Federal University of Technology, Manchok Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 25th of July, 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Danjuma to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Danjuma.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Danjuma, representing Kaduna South. I lead a debate on the bill for the establishment of the Federal University of Technology, Manchok. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate of this very important bill for the establishment of the Federal University of Technology, Manchok, SB 538. The bill was read for the first time in this hollow chamber on Tuesday, 25th July 2017, and it seeks to establish the Federal University of Technology, Manchok, and comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, the very essence of this bill is to provide a highly specialized institution that are more productive and very much needed for technological advancement of this nation. The objective of the university, among others, include: 1, to encourage advancement of learning and to hold out to all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political convention and opportunity of acquiring a higher education in science and technology. 2, to develop and offer academic and professional programs leading to the award of diploma, first degree, postgraduate research, and higher degree, which emphasize planning, adaptive, technical maintenance, development, and productive skill in the engineering, scientific, agricultural, medical, and allied professional discipline with high moral standard and capability, not only to understand, use, and adapt to in existing technology, but also to improve on it and develop new ones. C, to act as an agent and catalyst through postgraduate training, research, and innovation for the effective and economic utilization, exploitation, and conservation of the country's natural and human resources. D, to offer to the general population as a form of public service the result of training and research, and to foster and practice applications of this result. E, to establish appropriate relationship with other nations or private institutions involving in training, research, and development of science and technology. F, to identify technology problems, needs of the society, and to find solutions to them within context of overall national development. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, our economy has very high potentials and to require high-level technical, scientific, and administrative skill to drive it. The university is therefore to further advance knowledge through research and nurture unique innovation in science and technology. My President, my distinguished colleagues, the enactment of this bill will help in transforming the technological future of Nigeria in producing the desired manpower and expertise that Nigeria is yearning for. I wish to state that there is no financial implication to this bill, and all the operational structures are already in place, as the proposed university is to take over from the existing Federal College of Statistics, Manchop, Kaduna State. I urge you all to support this bill for the second reading. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand to second and support this very important bill. The southern part of Kaduna is one of the most naturally endowed parts of Nigeria. And the presence of this university in that part of the state will serve as a springboard for exploring the natural, human, and material resources that abound in that part of the state. It is a fact that that part of the state is one of also the most marginalized, abandoned parts of Kaduna State over the years. So I believe that setting up a university there will open up the space for the locals as well as research that can take place there. Mr. President, we are faced with an educational crisis in the very sense that the existing universities have not been able to provide opportunities for our young ones to study. So there is no gainsaying that more universities are needed, but they should be to the standard which they ought to have been established for. So I believe that this bill will open up the space in southern Kaduna, and this university, when eventually established, will also provide the necessary learning environment for the whole of the state, the whole of the region, and the whole of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Yes, Senator James Manja.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, James Manager Delta South. Whereas I am not opposed to the bill, but Mr. President, I want to draw attention to senators who are presenting or sponsoring bills. Because this particular one, we are talking about an upgrade from a technological school to a university. Certainly, there will be cost implication, no doubt about that. And adding the cost implication to every bill as provided for in the rules is compulsory for all bills. I am also a Kaduna State man. I will not be opposed to this bill. I'm not raising it, but in case of next time, so that let everybody be aware that the moment you move 1 inch to another, certainly there are financial implications, and it's a requirement, a basic requirement of our rules, which must be complied. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Okay, I'll put the question. Those in favor that this bill read the second time, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes are. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal University of Technology, Manchok, and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal University of Technology, Bangkok, and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading taken. This bill is read to Committee on Tertiary Institutions and third phone. Report back in 4 weeks. Leader of Senate.
Mr. President, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the second reading of the Federal Polytechnic at Dikpo, London, Benue State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 13th of June, 2017. That's Telion from Benue.
Senator Barnabas Gamade.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Barnabas Gamade. I represent Benue Northeast Senatorial District. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise to move for the bill for an act to establish the Federal Polytechnic at Dikpo in Benue State. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this crucial bill for the establishment of the Federal Polytechnic at Dikpo in Kano local government area of Benue State. This bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Tuesday, the 13th day of June, 2017. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the federal government policy to cite federal institutions in every state was established with the creation of 19 states in 1976. This policy continued, and with the creation of 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, successive governments have maintained the said policy in ensuring that every state in the Federation has a federal university, a federal polytechnic, and a federal college of education, respectively. Commendable as this policy is, the need has arisen to bring about equality in its implementation. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the report of the Committee of Tertiary Institutions.
Well, various points of order bordering on security and political issues were raised early in the sitting, and the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, in his wisdom, appealed to the lawmakers to not allow, especially the political issues, to boil over onto the floor of the Senate, and as such they stepped down discussions on that matter. Moving on, the bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Auditors of Nigeria, sponsored by Senate Leader Ahmed Lawan, has passed second reading, as did a bill that has been tagged the Bill of Unity, the Bill of Restoration. It was sponsored by Senator representing Kogi West, Dino Malaya, and it is titled a bill for an act to provide the residency rights for every citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who have lived and resided consecutively and paid taxes to the relevant local government areas for a period of not less than 5 years. They believe that this bill will further galvanize the country, given what has been happening in recent weeks with disunity. This bill will certainly go a long way towards further unifying the country and bringing an end to the issues of indigenes versus settlers. So that passed for second reading, as did a bill for an act to provide the establishment of the Federal University of Technology, Manchok. And this was sponsored by Senator Danjuma La, representing Kaduna South. And also passed for second reading was a bill to establish, or talking right now is a bill for an act to establish the Federal Polytechnic Adigbo. This is sponsored by Senator representing Benue Northeast, Barnabas Gamadi. The deliberations are ongoing onto this bill, but it's likely that it will be passed for second reading. But this is where we draw the curtain on this edition of our program from the National Assembly. And my name is Dennis Adigunloye on behalf of the Outside Broadcasting crew. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next week.